Hey, what's up guys? My name is Gracie and today I'm going to be telling you about every book that I read in 2020. So I've done this video several times before. If you've never seen how I do this, what I'll be doing is showing you the book, title, author, and then what I rated it and nothing else. So if you're here for like a review, not that type of video, just making basically a list of everything I read and what I rated it. So before we get into that, I'm going to give you a few stats. If you don't really care, you can skip this part. I'll like put a timestamp or something. I read a total of 43 books in 2020, and according to Goodreads, that means I read 11,925 pages. My average rating was 4.14 stars, so a little above 4. I accumulated 25 books in 2020, and 12 of those I bought. The other 13 were either gifted by someone or I got them from a publisher or in a subscription box. Out of the 43 books that I read, 18 of them I owned and read physically. They were my own book, and the rest were either ebooks, audiobooks, or library books, or I guess I may have borrowed. I don't think I borrowed anything from like anybody, but I could be blanking and not remembering that. So yeah, those are some stats for you, and let's get into every book that I read in 2020. In January, I read Poems to Sea by, illustrated by Julian Peters, which I gave 4.25 stars. The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, which I gave 4.5 stars. And The Names We Take by Trace Kerr, which I gave 2.75 stars. In February, I read To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, which I gave 4.75 stars. 12 Angry Men by Reginald Rose, which I gave 4.25 stars. The King of Crows by Libba Bray, which I gave 4.75 stars. Nothing is Strange by Mike Russell, 3.25 stars. The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, 3.75 stars. And Dark and Deepest Red by Anna Marie McLemore, 4.25 stars. In March, I read The Hand on the Wall by Maureen Johnson, which I gave 4.75 stars. Summer Spirit by Elizabeth Holville, 3.5 stars. The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, which I gave 4 stars. And I Darken by Kirsten White, which I gave 4.25 stars. In April, I read Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare, which I gave 4.5 stars. A Raisin in the Sun by Lauren Hansberry, which I gave 3.25 stars. Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng, 5 stars. I reread Everyone's an Alien When You're an Alien Too by Jomny Sun, 5 stars. And Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor, 4.75 stars. In May, I read All the Rage by Courtney Summers, 3.5 stars. The Reptile Room by Lemony Snicket, 3.25 stars. Mouse One, A Survivor's Tale by Art Spiegelman, 4 stars. Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng, 4.5 stars. And I Hope You're Listening by Tom Ryan, 4.5 stars. In June, I read The Roundhouse by Louise Erdrich, which I gave 4.5 stars. And If You Come Softly by Jacqueline Woodson, which I gave 4 stars. In July, I read Hurricane Child by Kaysen Callender, which I gave 3.5 stars. A Quiet Kind of Thunder by Sarah Bernard, 4.25 stars. They Wish They Were Us by Jessica Goodman, 4 stars. Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption by Stephen King, which I gave 4.75 stars. The Girl the Sea Gave Back by Adrienne Young, 4.25 stars. I Am Here Now by Barbara Botner, which I gave 4 stars. And The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd Jones, which I gave 5 stars. In August, I read The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton, which I gave 4.5 stars. And Watch Over Me by Nina LaCour, which I gave 4 stars. In September, I read Swamp Thing Twin Branches by Maggie Stiefvater, which I gave 4.25 stars. In October, I read Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson, which I gave 4.25 stars. In November, I read Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman, which I gave 3 stars. And With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo, which I gave 5 stars. In December, I read White Oleander by Janet Fitch, which I gave 3.25 stars. Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, which I gave 3.75 stars. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, which I gave 4.5 stars. Chlorine Sky by Mahogany L. Browne, which I gave 3.25 stars. And Every Single Lie by Rachel Vincent, which I gave 5 stars. So those were all 43 books that I read in 2020. Yeah, I really enjoyed some of them. Some of them were meh, some of them were kind of bad, but not absolutely terrible. Didn't really read any like terrible books, like nothing under 2.75 stars. I totally forgot to record an outro, but thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and let me know any of your thoughts on these books that I read in 2020 if you have read them, or if I convinced you to read any of them with my very short opinion. Bye!